This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. In this video, we're going to be making a 3D hydrangea cake design. It's broken down into steps so you can skip ahead, rewatch, and rewind as desired. Let's get started on making our colors. We're going to start with the color for the background of our cake. It's going to be the lightest, and we're going to end up making 5 different shades today. We're using all American style buttercream, and we're going to use 4 liquid gel colors to complete our project. Violet, neon bright pink, there we go, lemon yellow, and finally, some royal blue. I've got a little bit of each squeezed out onto a lid, and I'm going to start with just a couple of specks of both my pink and my purple. We're looking to make a super pale shade of kind of a lilac-y pink for the background of our cake. We don't need much because we're just coating a small 4-inch round, and we've already got it covered with white. That's just a little pale still, so just do a few more specks of each. And I think I'll repeat again. I just want it to be a little more present. It's kind of looking like one of those barely there colors that's almost white that you see on paint swatches. And that's kind of a good place to be. It'll give us a nice background color for our flowers and leaves to pop off of. So we have a beautiful, barely there shade of lilac. For our second color, we're going to make a darker shade of lilac. So we just want to use more color. So same kind of deal, some specks of both purple and pink, about equal on them. I might go a little heavier on my pink, just because I want it to have a bit of a pinky vibe. But a nice mix of the two, and we want it to have more color than that first shade we made. We want it to stand out against it. So it should read as kind of being in the same family, kind of like if you were making a monochromatic color palette, and just a little more present. And I think that's almost there. It's looking nice, just like 1 or 2 specks of each color again should do it, and that should be enough difference from the background that it should stand out. And it should read against it while looking just a little bit different. And for our third shade, we're going to go even darker, and I'm going to start out with a drop of pink, and then I'm going to give it just a couple of specks of my purple. So think 3 colors, kind of in the same family. Light, medium, and dark is what we've gone for. And we're going to use this to create some variation in our blossoms. And this is looking really pretty. It's different enough than our other 2 colors, and it's a little more intense. I just want to bump it up a tiny bit, so I'm going to give it a few more specks of each, just to make sure that I really put some distance between the colors and their value. That looks lovely. Now we're going to make some color for the center of our hydrangea blossoms. And so we want it to be kind of like a yellow with just that hint or touch of green. So I'm just going to do a few little specks of yellow. You notice I don't even have much color in there. really more than I need because I need enough to have in the bag so I can squeeze it. So just 2 pretty big specks of yellow and just 1 teeny tiniest touch of that blue, just to give it a little hint of green. And I think that's gonna pop nicely against our pink. And if I need to, I can always add a little bit more of that blue. I want to take it a little bit more towards green, but I want to mix it around well first and just really make sure I get that blue mixed in well, because sometimes, especially with those tiny specks, it's there in a little pocket and it might take a little bit to blend it. So still looking pretty yellow. I think I just want to go just tiny more touch on blue. There we go. I think this is going to be a really beautiful color for the centers on those flowers. It should really pop and help the individual blossoms on our clumps really read well. Our final color is going to be a bit of a true green. We want to color for our leaves and our stems, so you can see we've got a little more in the bowl there. I'm just going to start with 1 drop each of my yellow and my blue. So think equal parts. Should give us a nice green. And I want kind of like a nice medium tone shade. Not too dark, but also not too light. And then I've got a little color out on my lid, so if I need to adjust it one way or another, if my drop of one color was bigger than the other, I can always kind of skew it where I need to go. And this is actually going to be beautiful. You can see it's really easy to mix a nice green just with equal portions of lemon yellow and royal blue. We made 5 disposable bags for this project. They're all 12-inch. We've fitted most of them directly with the tip, and one of them we've used a coupler. I chose my darker shade of that lilac to put the coupler with because we're going to be changing tips and we need to use a 12 and a 104 with at least one of those pink colors. So I say whichever one you have more of, that's the one you want to fit with the coupler. For my darker shade of lilac, we're going to be using a number 12 tip. It's also fitted with a coupler. And we'll be using it with a 104 tip as well. Our bag with our medium tone of lilac is also fitted directly with a 104 tip. We have 2 bags for our green. The first one is fitted with a number 5, and the second bag for our green is fitted with a number 125. And finally, our bag of yellow is fitted with a number 2. Now let's go over the techniques we're going to use for our 3D hydrangea cake. The first, dots. We're going to do some with our number 12 tip and some with our number 2. We want to be up off the surface, really let that frosting come out, connect, and then expand. So you can see it connecting and then expanding, and we want to get nice and big. You can give it a little wiggle if you need to help build up the shape and really build up some volume. And it doesn't have to be a perfectly smooth dot. We're just looking to build a surface to pipe our blossoms on. For our number 2 tip, it's going to be nice and small. So we just want to be right above the surface. So just a tiny bit of room. Same basic principle though, where we squeeze, let it reach its full size, stop and spiral around so we get a nice, beautiful, smooth dot. And we're going to use these for flower centers. For our petals, we're going to be doing some small, short teardrops. So think normal kind of teardrop shape, where we're pulling out from the base of the petal, rotating and pulling back. And we just, you see, don't need to pull out very far. It's more about getting that nice stroke with the outside of the tip and rotating it before you pull it back. Now, because these are little hydrangeas and a lot of times the petals are at kind of wonky angles, it might serve us well to do some petals that are also on their sides. So you might see us do this kind of motion. It's the same basic thing. We're just doing it up on its side so that it has some height and looks a little different. And when we combo them together, it's going to make some nice unique flowers with some dimension for us. For our stems for our hydrangea, we're going to use number 5 tip, so large round tip. If you don't have a 5, try a 6, even a 7. They can be fat and chunky. And we're going on the side of the cake, so we want to take the bag, hold it at a nice 45-degree angle. That's going to allow that frosting to flow out unimpeded. And we're just going to start by touching the surface, squeeze, let it connect, and then just pull up a tiny little fraction. So you're just hovering right above the surface or gently skimming it with that tip. And when you want to, touch down and stop squeezing to finish. You can see I went a little fast there, so I got a break in my line. If that happens to you, it's not a big deal. You can always chill your cake and then go back and fill in that little gap. And finally, we're going to do some large variegated leaves. So we're using that 125 tip with our green. And we're going to pipe these on our flower nails so that they're prepped and ready to go, and also so that they're easy to pipe, because if you try to do these directly on the side of the cake, the angle can be a little bit weird, especially when you try to go around the back side and maybe you're trying to squeeze it in. It can put your hand in some awkward position, so it's a little easier to do these on the nail. And what we're going to do is the fat end is going to make the center line, and we're going to start with the bag kind of like at 130, and as we kind of wriggle up, we're going to rotate the bag and our nail to pull it to a point. So think we're going from 1:30 to 3 o'clock as we pull up the first side. And then as we do the second side, we're going to come back and end up at 4:30. So it's kind of like you're making this broad arc with the overall orientation of the bag. So we're going from 1:30 to 4:30 to finish it. So go up the first side and then down the second. And the entire time we're just going to wriggle out and back. So you can pull to a point there. And it's a 2-stroke leaf, so don't try to make it all in one go. Do the first half and then come back and do the second half. And I'm mimicking my nail action by just turning that tray. Sorry, got a little off center, but you can see that makes a nice broad flat leaf that has those little lines to it that gives it the look of veins. Building your hydrangea blossoms. We went over the different techniques we're going to use. Now let's talk about how we're going to put some of those smaller techniques together to build actual clumps of hydrangeas. We're going to start out with our number 12 tip and pipe that nice large dot. And then we're going to switch to our 104 tip and we're going to cover it with flowers. I'm going to start down at the bottom. I find it easier to start there and work up. Go all the way around, piping little 4-petal blossoms. Typically, I do 3 kind of flat teardrops and 1 that's on its side that has more height to it, and that's a great way to squeeze them in. You might find in some places it's easier just to do 3 petals, or even 2 to give it the look of one that you can only see half of, and that's totally fine. It'll still read beautifully. Once you go all the way around, start another row offset and keep working up until you fill the full surface of your dot. Once I do that, I'll just give it a nice quick visual inspection, and any place I have little gaps or a significant gap, I'll fill in with an extra petal or 2, just to fill up the surface area. It gives you the appearance of flowers you can't fully see, and it makes them look nice and varied. Then I'll finish these up by putting a dot in the center of each blossom. This will really help differentiate them and set them off, and it also gives you a little bit of interest with that nice hit of color that should give us a nice bit of contrast, because we'll have that kind of lilac-y pink shades for the petals and that nice kind of bright spring yellow color that has just that hint of green in it. Now that we've reviewed our techniques, we're going to start practicing on our flower nail. I've got a large 3-inch flower nail. I've got my bag with my darker color fitted with my number 12 tip. And I'm going to start well above the surface because we want to make a nice big dot. So this one is going to be our big full clump of hydrangea blossoms. So let it connect, squeeze so it gets to a nice full size, give it a little wriggle, and then build it up. We really want to get a little bit of height on this one and give ourselves some nice surface area. So you can see it's nice and big. Now let's start working with our 104 tip. I'm again with my darker color, and I'm just going to start down here at the bottom, curve and pipe a little petal there. Just rotate your nail whichever direction you need to get that on there. I'm going to come in at a funny angle and just do one like that. So you can see gives it some dimension and makes them stand out and look very three-dimensional. And then just go right next to it. Just keep working around any angle you need to get those little blossoms on there. And I'm gonna try not to run into the ones that I've done before, but if you do, it's not a really big deal. You can always just remove a leaf using a toothpick or one of your palette knives, sorry, petal, set leaf, and just repipe it. So I've got a little odd space there at the end where I don't really have room for a full flower, so I'm just gonna put in 2 little petals. So like there's a half of one sneaking out. And you can see one row pretty much covers the bottom there and leaves me a nice gap in the middle. And I can just go right on top. This should be a little easier angle-wise. 3, 1 on its side, and there's room there for just maybe some little upright ones. So it looks like there's some more flowers going on. And there we have a nice little clump of hydrangea blossoms that just need their centers. So I have my bag with my number 2 now. It's got that nice little yellowy green color in it. And I'm just gonna go in and everywhere I have a flower center, make a dot. And if you need to, you can even do some little dots on any little half blossoms, just to give it the idea that they're peeking out from underneath. So you can get a lot more dimension and a beautiful look to that. So you can see we've got a nice little clump of hydrangeas there. We're going to make a couple more of these. Now we're gonna make some kind of half blossoms, and these are gonna be the ones that sit on the side of our cake. We probably only need 1 or 2 of the full ones, and we're gonna need more of the half ones. So for this, instead of pulling really high up with the tip, our number 12, when we're getting started, we're gonna go closer to the surface. This is gonna make it a little bit more of a flatter disc, so it's gonna give it a flatter profile. So just really quick, squeeze, just get a nice area. If you need to, circle around a little bit. There we go. So you can see it's a nice flatter disc, and it doesn't have to be perfect on top. It can be nice and messy. I've switched to a bag with a 104. I'm gonna use my lighter color this time, and this is gonna be what helps to give us a little bit of variety by piping some of these in the dark and some of them in the light, and you can even kind of mix it up and do some of the flowers on these with both. Right? So just give yourself a little bit of natural variation, and it's going to be a little bit easier because it's a flatter surface here. So I'm just going to go around, same way, outside edge. And these are going to have less weight and also less depth to them. So they're going to be easier to place on the side of our cake. And we're actually going to need more of these than we will of the full ones. So I probably want to pipe about 5 or 6. You can see there in the middle, I don't really have room for a full one, so I'm just going to do a few little petals sticking in the middle. And you can see that little bit of the darker color peeking through with the lighter helps to give it a little natural variety as well, and helps to give the whole thing a look that has a little bit more depth to it. So same as before, once you finish your little flower petals, grab your bag with your number 2 and just put a dot anywhere there should be a center. And you can even do dots for your little halfsies. The final thing we're going to make on our nail today are some of those nice little flat variegated leaves. So we're going to start down at the bottom of our nail. We're still working on our 3-inch one, and I've got it fitted with a little piece of parchment. And the back of the bag is kind of towards 130. And we're just going to wriggle out as we pull up, and then change to go back. So you can see as we work our way around, we get a nice flat leaf, with those beautiful little wiggly lines in it that gives us the look of veins. Probably need 3 to 4 of these leaves to complete my design. So we have our little 4-inch cake already coated in white, and I'm gonna give it a nice thin coating of that lightest color that we made. So it's the lightest lilac shade that we made. So just a nice dab on top. Nice soft buttercream. If you're working on a firm cake, this is really easy to do. Just give it a nice, thin, smooth coating. First on the top, and then on the sides. So just load up your spatula and use it to go around. And we just want to cover up that white and make sure we don't have any show through. And since it's a small cake, it should be nice and easy to make quick work of this. And it really shouldn't take too much color to get all the way around. And if this is your first time coating a cake in color like this, we do this because it uses less food coloring, so it saves us a little. And it also means that people can kind of eat around that food coloring. And you don't have to worry as much about it affecting the taste of your buttercream and leaving that kind of funky aftertaste, because there's not that much of it then, and it's just coating the outside, and you can actually eat around it just like you would fondant. So once you get that on there, it's nice and relatively smooth. I just like to use both a bowl scraper, kind of helps push into any pockets, and then a bench scraper to just quickly go over, even up, straighten up the sides. It's a nice right angle, and you can just leave it resting right on your board. And that should help make them really nice and smooth and really nice and straight. And then just use your spatula, nice open angle towards yourself. Just soft sweeping strokes, and use it like sandpaper. And it should take off any excess and leave us with a nice, smooth surface on top. If it's your first time doing this, it might take more than one pass. If you need another go at it and it's getting a little too soft to work with, pop it in the fridge for 10-15 minutes, pull it back out, and go over it with your color, and it'll be even easier to work with. We've got our flowers chilling in the fridge, so we're going to start preparing our cake, and I'm just going to use a toothpick to just lightly draw some stems on. And they don't have to be straight. I just want one going all the way to the top. Let's see. And maybe have it branch out at the top, and a little room for a leaf over at the side. And I'm just going to mark the top right there. Spin. Do a little third rotation on my cake so I can do one in another area. And just kind of keep them equally spaced out, because I don't want them ending up too close together. And so I'm probably going to do one that has 3 on it, and one that has 2, and one group that's just a single, since the hydrangea clumps are kind of big. And once we get our little markings on there, we're going to go over with our green and piper stems. For our stems, I've got my bag with my green and my number 5. I'm going to hold it at a 45-degree angle to the cake, so think kind of right there next to it, and then just rock that bag out, and you'll see that puts the tip in that perfect position to touch the cake, and then my hand isn't knocking against it either. And I just want to point the back of the bag in the direction I'm piping so I can glide along in a nice smooth line. And if it gives you any little hiccups or starts, don't worry, just go back and fill them in. But if you're lucky, you'll get a nice clean line. Happens sometimes, not always. And I'm just going to trace over the little lines that I made for myself. Get that to branch out at the top. And maybe we have a little short one over there that we're going to stick a leaf on. And I'm just going to follow all of these just to get myself ready And once we're finished piping, then we will pull our little blossoms out of the refrigerator and start placing. So we're going to start placing our blossoms, and I've got some extra color in my bags over here right next to me, and my flowers are on my tray right over here on the other side, so everything's easy to grab. They're nice and cold. They're just out of the refrigerator. And I'm going to start by placing one on the top. And this is my big, nice, full one. You can see it's a pretty small cake, so I don't want to do too much up there at the top, make it too busy so that you can't really see what's going on. But I want to get it, there we go. So I have a nice little clump going on right there. Gorgeous. And then I'm going to do something a little unusual. I'm going to place one on the side and I'm going to build a little bit on the back. And I want to pick one of my ones where I kind of mixed up the colors. So you can see I piped half with the lighter color and half with the medium shade. And I'm just going to go right here on the side, put some buttercream on, and then once I get it in place, I'm actually going to build up in the back a little bit because we want this to be able to be viewed from behind. So we're going to end up making kind of a 3/4 blossom. So I'm just going to give it a little squeeze. Any tip will do. And that's going to help hold that in place. And also build up a little area in the back that we're going to come back and pipe on. There we go. And then I'm going to take one of my ones, I think that's completely with light ones, and put it right there on the side. And I'm not going to worry too much if I've covered up all my lines, because I want this to look like a nice large clump of hydrangea blossoms. And if you cover up some of your stems and you need to add some extras on later, don't worry about that. You can always do that. It's not a problem. Just hold it in place for a few seconds, and since the cake is still a little bit cold, it should hold things for you. And I'm going to take a leaf and put it down over here. So I can either pipe a little green directly on my cake or give a little squirt on the back of one of my leaves and then go right off to the side. You can see we're getting that nice, beautiful look, and we've got kind of a nice ombre fade. Now I'm just going to turn quickly to the back. Make sure my frosting is coming out. And I'm going to pipe some more little flowers. So we can just continue our pattern right here on the back. And this is going to give us a nice full look. It's going to cover up the back of that little bit of area, especially where the viewer can see it from the front. And just go in there anywhere you need to. Put on some little petals. Don't be afraid to touch it and attach. And then we'll go in with that nice little electric yellow color we made. And we'll put some little dots in the centers too. That way they pop off just like the rest. There we go. One hiding down there. And then you can see we have this beautiful trio of hydrangea blossom clumps that makes like a nice big bold stem. I'm going to keep going around on the sides. I'll do one with a single and one with a double as well, and then we'll come back and show you the completed design. And here we have our finished design. You can see we have a nice three-dimensional vibe with that big clump of these blossoms that we created up here for a primary. I went ahead and added a second leaf over there just to balance it out. And then we've got a little duo over here and a little single with a leaf just to kind of finish things off and give us a nice little look. And we went with a nice little ombre fade where we did a medium tone, a darker tone to a medium tone, and then a light version of it on the background with just a bright pop of true green just to give us a nice cheery color in there. And hydrangeas are one of those ones, they come in a wide variety of colors, blues, pinks, purples, whites, greens, so they're really versatile and you can really make this in a lot of different color schemes, and you can even stripe your bag. We just did solid colors this time to show a little something different on these blossoms, and creating some flatter ones and also some 3/4 ones up there for a nice little addition that makes a very kind of, I don't know how to describe it, a nice cake that has a lot of depth to it. So it's a sweet little design. It's perfect for a little cake for a holiday if you want to celebrate with someone special. That's all for this lesson. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, you'll check out some of our other 3D cake designs, like our great carnation or maybe that fabulous big bold camellia. If you want a more detailed tutorial on making the clumps of hydrangea blossoms, we also have one of those in our flower series. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecoratingschool.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.